Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Good day.
Good day. How's it going?
Oh, I'm feeling a little, I don't know, a little wonky. I don't know. Uh, Solar eclipse yesterday, new moon energy, and I went to a sound bath last night. So I'm just like, not good, not bad, I don't know. Maybe the tones, of course, affects your energy, right? So just feeling different, I guess I would say.
That's actually interesting. Feeling different is, I would say, is probably very accurate for just life in general, especially as we're going through all these changes and we're not in the same familiar path anymore. It's like it's all different. It's all kind of flowing. It's nice to be in that space of not having any expectations. I'm still on the focus of just being happy because everything else doesn't matter. Everything else really doesn't matter. If we're not happy, then we're not appreciating things. If we're not happy and win $1 billion, we're still not going to be happy. We're still dragging ourselves along with it. So that's kind of a conversation I've been having with a lot of clients and stuff. Because even though I've had money come into my life, money comes in, it flows out, it flows in, it flows out. That's the way it is. But how are you feeling when all that happens? And it's recognizing what's showing up around you, indicating where you're at. So I mean, we're on this path, and it's sometimes unfamiliar, and we sometimes will gravitate back to the old familiar stuff, the old patterns, because it's familiar to us again. That's all. It's not because it benefits us greatly or anything, and it does benefit us because we recognize, hey, we're back where this doesn't feel good, and how long are we going to stay there? So it's just interesting because my focus has been being happy. I want to be in a space of happiness and joy, and there's no reason that I can't be, regardless of what's going on in our experiences in our life. There's no reason that we can't experience that. It's looking at things and seeing a bigger picture and wondering how it's happening for us, and just kind of asking questions. And it's kind of the journey right now. It's not complicated. It's not that I have to go, ooh, I'm feeling this way, and go search out why I'm feeling this way, because that's what I was doing. For me, it's just the focus right back to happiness again, because it's one or the other. It's love or it's fear, right? It's happiness or it's not. And that could be on so many different levels, but really it's that simple. And if we don't know what that looks like or what that feels like, we start asking questions.
Right.
And that's what I've been doing. Show me what that feels like. Show me what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I have more experiences of it.
Nice. Now I'm out in the public a whole lot more, hearing those conversations and recognizing, do I want to be a part of this or not? And recognizing how much time, energy, and focus is given on an uncomfortable situation, and how now I got to tell this person, now I got to tell that person, and now we got to sit in the office and talk about it the third time. It's like, no, I don't have time for this. I got stuff to do. I have my own energy to maintain. I don't need to sit on this conversation again about the same thing, about the same person that you're not liking. Why are we doing this? Right. But even, people that just come in having conversations, and it's like, it's great awareness for me. And as I've said before, I utilize listening or observing other people's conversations or their behaviors as a way to work on myself. And there's some people that I'm around quite often now that repeat themselves in one conversation, will repeat themselves 3 or 4 times, say the exact same thing 3 or 4 times. Like, I didn't hear you the first time. I told my boss, I said, listen, I have this awareness about these people, and if I do that, please just stop me and say, hey, you already said that. I mean, that's how much I am invested in working on myself. I want other people to, when I ask you, will you please do this? Because we get into that habit of speaking, and we don't really hear ourselves sometimes because it's such a habit, such a pattern. And if I have the awareness of it and I want to change it, and or be sure that I'm not doing that type of behavior or speaking in that way. Just say, hey, stop. You already said that. I don't need to hear it again, right? And I'm open to that. So I've asked for that feedback, and I've asked for her to, be aware of how I'm talking, and so that my goal is just to be and do better. And I know that people show up in my life to help me do that, and I utilize that information. So I'm like, let's do this. But you have
Yeah,
to,
because otherwise,
right? You gotta be willing and want that for yourself.
yeah.
So,
And it's being aware, because sometimes that's not always easy, even though you've been practicing it for a long time. When you get out in the public and you're in that energy all day long, it's not always easy to maintain that energy, but it gets easier and easier. And then, like you said, you're using it for your own tool. Because we can look at it and decipher it and be like, well, the reason people repeat themselves because they're looking for a response, and they're not getting the response from what they had said. So they say it another way, thinking that they're going to get this response. And it keeps them in that little hamster wheel on the
or feel
merry-go-round. You
important.
just
I think
going
it's like,
around.
to feel important.
Yeah. And then we get caught up in things. And that's something else too. I'm even recognizing with myself is one of the things I watched a lot of videos so I can share that information. And it's like, some of that stuff resonates with me, but it hasn't been my personal experience. And so I'm finding for my personal experience, but it's not even so much my personal experience. It's just being in the space of allowing that flow, because I don't have all the information. I don't have all the answers, and I don't want to have the answers. I'm not here to fix anyone. I'm here to grow myself and to expand myself. And because by doing that, I recognize other people are doing the same thing. By recognizing in my relationship, I'm gone all day long. I'm gone all day long. I'm going to work, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm with the grandkids, and I'm everything else. And it's like, then my partner is the one that's gets kind of set to the side until I get home, and then doesn't get that much attention because I'm tired from running around all day long. So it's also recognizing there's so many different things, and it's recognizing that we don't have to spread ourselves thin, but it's asking for that help, because I don't know how to manage that time. So I'm utilizing it where I'm having the opportunity to spend with, not spend, but to be able to be with all the people that I want to be with in my daily activities, and enrich the relationship that I have, because it's an amazing relationship. And as I've been doing that, I haven't been talking to one of my kids very much because she's been busy, new mom, and she has another son, and so she's got a new son, and she's been devoting more time to her relationship, and we hadn't talked about it, but it just goes to show you the parallels. When I start focusing on having more conversations and more communication, more holding hands or hugging or whatever, when I'm focused on all that stuff and I'm honoring that relationship, she's learning to do that too, because I didn't do that with her dad. We both had our parallel lives, and we were busy all day long. And when we came together at night, that's how relationships fall apart, because there's not a coming together. There's not a sharing of things. And it's like you become roommates. You're not even in a space where you're enjoying each other, because you don't even have time to enjoy yourself. So it's really taking that time to even enjoy self. There's just a lot of different things that have come forward for me as far as that experience goes. And it's not like, oh, I just made this decision and this is how it's going to be. There's a process. It doesn't just happen that way. I have not always been a very touchy-feely kind of person. I didn't ever like to snuggle. It's like, hey, I'm hot, I'm sweating, get off, get off. Hey, give me some space, So I was always kind of like that, but it's because I realized I was just overwhelmed by everything. I was overstimulated by everything. I was, I can use a million different terminologies, but let's take that conversation to a different space, because I don't want to. The conversation I'm having right now is actually creating my future, and that's not where I want to create from. So my relationship is more holding hands. It's the long hugs. It's really feeling that person's energy, no matter who it is, whether it's Freeman or whether it's one of my clients or it's my kids or my grandkids. It's taking that time to give them that hug and to look them in the eyes and tell them that I love them. It's doing all those things. And it's been one of those missed things that I hadn't really paid much attention to, but it's in my focus right now. It's important. I'm also realizing, back to the happy part, we've been geared towards being consumers. So we're always wanting whatever we get, we're wanting something immediately afterwards. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how we create. We're creators. But no matter what we're creating, we create all day long. with our thoughts. And like you've learned, it's just taking, and how do we want to invest our time, or how do we want to invest in our creations? And it's like, are we creating what we want? Or are we creating what we don't want? So it's really, there's just so many things that are going along with that, but also realizing just because I want these things, for instance, if I wanted a brand new vehicle, if I don't have the brand new vehicle right now, it's not because I'm blocking myself from that brand new vehicle. It's not divine time. It's not time for that. If I'm wanting something else and the money just flows in, I know that that's like it's like a general direction of where to go. We just like being happy. It's following those passions. It's so simple. It's all these little tiny things that kind of fit together and it makes your life so full, and so it blossoms, it grows, and then everybody around you has that same possibility. And without you even talking to them, you don't even have to tell them about it. I didn't tell my kids about that, how I was doing things, or even cleaning the house. And then my other daughter sending me pictures of cleaning the house. So it's like all these things, it's all these parallels that are always happening. We think we've got to go out and do all these big, huge things, and it's all the little tiny things. It's you showing up to your job, and it's you being just standing in who you are. You don't have to teach anybody anything. You just be who you are, and they see, oh my gosh, how she's getting along with everybody. She doesn't have a problem with anybody, and she has a different understanding because you're seeing them at their soul level. You're not going into and seeing them, and you might be seeing them at their child level. You know, you might see them where maybe they were, where they got stuck at. And it's like, it's okay, because we're not going to treat a little kid horribly just because they're not doing what we want them to do, or they're not behaving the way we want them to do. At least we shouldn't be. But there's other possibilities. So it's like, just being yourself. Be what you want the world, be how you want the world to be, right? Show up how you want everybody else to show up for you. And it's not, you're not going to show up and everything's going to be great and you're going to have some jerk come in and blow up in your face. It's not going to be that way. It might be a milder version of something like that. But if you are, then it's like you said, you go back to yourself, you check in with self. What was I thinking? Where am I at? How is this mirroring me? What can I learn from this? How is this showing up for me? Or why is this showing up for me?
Yeah. I'm going to call it a test of the universe is what I'm going to call it, is, where I work, we do fingerprinting, and it's digital. And this lady came in. I know her from being around her in other spaces. And she came in, she's got to do this like every 4 years. And so we start doing her prints, and they're not coming out so well. So we got to redo it. Like we redid her prints a lot, not gonna lie. But you know, it's like, if you don't get it a good print, it could get rejected. And then that's gonna cause, you know, them to have to come back. And so we're trying to avoid that the first time. So, you know, if we got to do this 50 times, we're going to do it. So I hope you scheduled your afternoon accordingly. So anyway, we start. And first of all, immediately she's just complaining about the fact that she has to do it, but she's been doing her career for like 30 years. And she knows she has to do this every 4 years. Given, right? Or like 32 years she's been doing this. So it's a given. She's got to do this. So why do we need to complain about that? We already know we got to do it, right? Then, so I start doing her prints, anyway, I'm not going to tell all the details, because there were many things for her to complain about, or that she chose to complain about. But we started doing her prints, and I'm like, oh, we got to redo it, and then I was like, oh, we got to redo it. I mean, this is just going on, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is it, man. She's just nothing nice to say. And then what comes, right? So then what comes out of her mouth is, well, this happened last time. I had to do this 10 times. I went here 3 times. I went there 3 times. I had to go over here. And I'm like thinking, so, you know, there's already going to be an extended amount of time to get your prints done. Like, she already knew this, but she needed something to complain about. And now back in the day, in my old version of myself, I would have been a mess. I would have been shaking. I would have been, you know, that not good enough story, that, oh my gosh, I'm not getting this right. You know, I would have been beside, I probably would have been close to tears. I'm not kidding you. But I didn't. I cracked jokes. I said, well, at least you're getting your money's worth. You know, I'm just saying all these things to keep a positive light. And when she left, you know, of course, I took a deep breath. It's like, because that takes a lot of energy to hold space like that. And so after they left, I went into my boss and I'm like, is it just me or is she negative all the freaking time? And she's like, no, her and her husband, like never have anything good to say ever. And it's just that awareness of like, why, coming back to what you were saying earlier, because of what I do know, it's like, man, can you imagine what her upbringing was and how she learned that, and being in that kind of energy, in her childhood, to have taken that on and been like, this lady's in her, she's gotta be in her 60s. She has to be, I'm not kidding. And to live your entire life in that, like that. Now, I recognized early, well, I'm not gonna say early, but I recognized in my 20s that I had a lot of anger in me, and I didn't want to live my life till my last breath living in that anger and that shame and that guilt and all that stuff. So I wanted something different. And then now that I'm on that other side of, you know, like you said, the happiness, the joy, you know, I'm seeking the to be in a feel good space more often, and then to be around people like that who just, it's like, why you want to live like that? Why? It's just like, why you see that?
It's kind of a reminder that where you're at right now, because
Yeah.
back maybe even 5 years, you might have gotten caught up in that type of energy. Do you know what I mean? And it's like now not getting caught up in that energy, and then once that energy is no longer in your space, taking that breath, because it's huge.
Yeah.
Just doing that is something so simple, right? But it's not always, it sounds simple, but it's not always simple, especially when you're first learning to do all this stuff.
Right.
So it's easy to be still in that space, but it's like, but you're recognizing it's easy to not be in that space because you just said why. Because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. There's nothing good that comes from that.
Yeah.
That's not true. The good that comes from that is a wanting for something better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So,
I also recognize too that the way I handle things is being a brighter example for the coworkers, because the coworkers are still stuck in the not good enough and trying to prove themselves and taking things personal and all that stuff. And I'm just not, I'm like not in that space anymore. So I can bring this different version of or experience or example for them to witness and see how to handle things like that in a different way.
yeah.
Which is
sometimes, yeah, it is a blessing. Sometimes, because I used to do the digital prints too, and we used to do it because I worked at a local jail. So back in that time, and sometimes we had to warm up the person's hands, because if they got cold, they would get, cold. They would just not. They just wouldn't print very well. So it's like there was certain things that we would have to do in order to help get prints, because you couldn't walk away. You had to stay there until we got your prints. That's
right.
the way it is, and it would let you know right then if it rejected it or took it. So like you had experienced, but it's just interesting to be in that process, and then for you to be on that side of it doing the same thing. And like you said, she's been doing this for a long time. It's, I've talked about leaving massage so much and everything else, but when I start focusing on this happiness part, I don't really care what I'm doing as long as I'm happy. I really don't care. So my massages are different. I go into work, I feel different. Like there's a whole different process that's happening. And I'm saying that because it gives people an opportunity to recognize it's just like when I win the money, it's going to be this way. When I get the house, when I get that new job, when I leave that job, then I'll be happy. And that's not an accurate statement, because you're never going to be happy, because you're always going to be leaning or working towards something that's outside of yourself. And it's none of that stuff matters. But if I'm in a great space and on myself inside, it is just what it is. Honestly, I just find myself being happy. I'll pop in. I've actually, I'm gonna do a massage on my day off, tomorrow morning, and I've done in the last few weeks, I've done them here, and I haven't really had a whole lot of time off for myself. but I'll take my time for myself, for the meditation, to scribble while I'm writing, to channel write, to read, to play my games. Like all those things are my opportunity to give myself a time for myself. And it's however I want to utilize my time. If it makes me happy, that's the whole thing. If I'm happy doing it, then I'm doing it. That's been such a process. It's been such a process that for me, it wasn't like it just happened overnight and then all of a sudden here I am. No, it's taken me time, and it's still things pop up, still emotions pop up. I mean, I had something recently that popped up and I felt like I was being betrayed. You know, went through a little moment of, it felt like I was being betrayed because somebody didn't tell me, didn't confide in me or tell me everything about something that I thought in a relationship that information should be shared. And it's like, it got blown out of proportion in my mind. My mind created this story, and it's like, hey, and this is in the midst of I'm practicing this being happy, and I'm like realizing this isn't making me happy. What's the focus on the other side of it? So it's just, you just got to let it go. Honestly, that's just what I did. We've talked about it a million times. You can focus on the problem. You're never going to find a solution when you're focused on a problem. And it didn't need a solution. All I needed to do was focus on being happy. Put myself first, and not put a problem first, not put a perceived problem first. It wasn't even a problem. It wasn't even real. It wasn't even a big deal. It's just, I find it fascinating because I've been that person too, that has been that person that wasn't positive all the time.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. Cause I was there, and it's like, when we can sit back and look at them and think, wow, they're really in it right now. They're really in that muck and guck right now. And what do they need from us? Streams of grace,
Yeah.
happiness. Send them joy. Send them a prayer. Not a prayer like, oh, I hope they figure it out or they get fixed or whatever, because there's nothing wrong with them. They're on a journey. It's like I say, streams of grace is easy. Send them love. You pray. Even if I say I'm praying for their happiness, that kind of insinuates they're not happy, and it's not my job to judge whether they're happy or not happy. Their perception of happy is different, especially when you're in that space. Happy is a different perspective completely compared to what we might perceive as happiness, versus the next person that we run into that's happy and jovial and just full of life, and like almost, when you're in that space of the person that came in, versus the other space is like, oh, that is dramatic. I cannot handle that, because they can't handle that. They can't handle that high vibrational frequency from where they're at right now. It's not good or bad, but it's certainly a gauge. It lets you know where you're at right now.
Yeah. And I know, like when I was in my anger and all that stuff, when I saw happy people, I was interested in how to be that way. I just didn't know how to get there. And then I would be jealous.
Yeah.
Jealous and envious of them because they were so full of life and I didn't have that in me. And I was like, I just don't know how to get that. Well, you start asking the universe and they provide, right? The universe provides, and I found a path. So yeah, I in a chakra class I'm teaching right now, the very first class, I started talking and I don't even remember what I said, but I laughed, and it was about like the heaviness, the heavy emotions. And I just laughed. I'm like, you will find that I will laugh a lot during this class because we're done being in the trauma. We're done being in the drama. We got to get lighter. It's time to, we're probably going to work through some stuff in this class, and we can also laugh. We can have a good time. We can be lighthearted, because that feels better to me than hanging on to all the stuff. So, even in those classes, it's like letting them know and giving themselves permission, because I know I needed that. I needed somebody else to give me permission to laugh, to have fun, to let go of stuff, to change my beliefs. And I recognize that for myself. And so I will bring that up in my classes. It's like, give yourself permission to fill in the blank, because you're the one that has to do it. And you're the one, right? We're the ones, for each of us individually, to decide what is that path of happiness. And if you're not sure, then watch other people who seem to be happy in their life, and just notice how are they speaking? What kind of conversations are they having? What are they laughing at? I laugh at myself a lot. Didn't used to do that. I would get angry with myself. I would be mad at myself if I did something stupid. But now I just laugh at myself because I'm like, aren't we interesting beings that, are still doing this, or that, I wasn't in the present moment. I put my sunglasses in the refrigerator or something crazy. So it's like just giving yourself permission to laugh at yourself instead of beating yourself up. It's like, it doesn't feel good when we do that. We already know that. And to bring in the lightheartedness, because then that changes the signal that we're sending to the body, to the cells in our body that's listening to every word and every thought and every emotion we have and reacting accordingly. And then our body's going to be in a better state when we're on that path of joy and happiness. So it's like not just putting a smile on your face, it's like changes your whole physical self.
It really does. Such a blessing.
Yeah.
It is such a blessing.
Things, it's all of it. And
It
you'll
really
find
is.
that the people in their negative space who are negative all the time, they have a lot of physical problems. I've noticed that. I pay attention to stuff like that. Oh, this hurts. Oh, that hurts. Oh, I got this ache. I got this pain. I'm like, we need to spend some time together, sister. I need to lock you in a room with me. But
Yeah,
at the same time, you can't force anybody to do anything, right? So she's probably not going to do anything different in this lifetime, and that's okay. But I can learn from it. We can learn from it. So.
Yep, until she does, or whatever. Like I said, streams of grace. The more that people are setting streams of grace, the more opportunities a person has when they're so deep in stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
And just being happy how much it ripples out.
Yes,
I'm telling you, I get blown away each time that I do something, and then I hear the response of people around me. It's easy to fall back into those old patterns of that other stuff. But as soon as you recognize it, especially when you're going through this growth stuff, you look at it and you're like, ooh,
yeah.
you immediately recognize, yeah,
Like,
you don't, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel good. And then it's an asking. And even if we don't know what to ask, right? It's just saying, like you said a little while ago, I don't know. And then it creates an asking, but just saying, I don't know, allows the possibilities for information to flow through to you that raises your frequency, that gives you insight, that helps you lift your own energy, not relying on somebody else to do it for you.
it's almost like when you like, for us as an example, when we know what it feels like to be lighter, and then we get caught up in the human moments of maybe we are drawn into the drama or negativity, and we feel it really quickly, right? Yeah. And it's almost like, here's my human self, and I'm trying to come out, like I just pull back, and it's like I'm trying to get out of that body. Like, whoa, that's not me. Wait, hold on. Wait, I don't want to do that.
And
so maybe that's my spirit.
Yeah. And it's even remembering, like you've talked about with Archangel Michael, asking him to surround and to help you maintain your own energy. Yeah. Protect you and help you maintain your own energy. And that's kind of a big deal, especially if someone's labeled themselves empathic, or, any of the labels they put on themselves. When you get into those places and you're more sensitive to your surroundings, you recognize things and things, but it's like, you don't have to stay in those places. You don't have to, you can observe and then learn from it. Like, what you're doing, you're learning for yourself. You're learning, how is this showing up for you, and how are you, how can you grow through this, and how am I doing this myself? And it just helps you grow. It helps you stay in movement instead of stagnation. Movement's so much better, but it's good movement. It's not just any movement. It's good movement. It feels good movement. Yeah.
The image I got too, as I was talking about that pulling out, was how you pull the reins on a horse to stop, right? That's what I was like, whoa. Hold on. Stop. Anyway, just being
We're not crossing that bridge. That bridge.
that bitch. We ain't crossing that bitch today.
Not today.
I like it.
Funny. That's funny. One of those little slip ups.
It's good though. Yeah, so we talk about happiness, people, it's important because I feel like that definition changes, just like the definition. I mean, there's joy, but I think I'm gonna speak in terms of like levels. There's levels of joy or levels of happiness. And being in an angry state, that level of happiness could be, for me, would be just moving from anger to contentment, right? I'm not full out blown full of joy, but I'm not in my anger either. So, just finding maybe a neutral ground might allow that genuine happiness or joy to come in. And you keep redefining what happiness is for you. Happiness back in the day was this: when this person was loving me, I was happy, or when this person was giving me attention, I was happy. And we all know that that's external. When I had that good job, I was happy. Or when I had the money, it wasn't necessarily the job, but the money coming in and the bills were being paid, then I was happy. Like you were talking about earlier, right? When that fresh new vehicle smell and dependable form of transportation, I was happy. Okay, that's all external. And as we grow, as we learn to go within and tap into our internal happiness, then it's like another level of happiness. It's a redefining what happiness is. And so, we were raised to focus on the material and give a lot of attention to it, and allowing it to be our source of happiness or joy. And as we get older, I notice that this is happening for a lot of people, and it's probably been going on for, with elderly people for a while, that as we get older, it's like we reach a threshold, and it might be around, I think like 40 is a big transformational year. It's like when people really start waking up to their life and wanting to make changes. And I think around 50 is a year where they start redefining what their actual joy triggers are and where they want to give their attention. So instead of us buying gifts for each other, let's go on an amazing vacation together. Let's go spend 7 days together creating memories. Or instead of just buying gifts for each other, let's spend a day playing games and cooking together and laughing, right? We start redefining what really is the joy that's within us, and we want to share that, but it's not through a gift, of a material gift, like you're saying. So I've found that a lot in conversations. People are just like, yeah, I just want to spend time with my kids. I just want to cook for them. I just want to hang out with them. Around the holidays and stuff. We got the holidays coming, and it's like more and more people are thinking in those terms. That's what I'm finding.
And I would say I would agree with you as far as that goes, because I'm getting into that space. I'm getting into that space where I barely wear any makeup. I'm getting into that space where when I go in to have my hair done this next time, I'm going to start going more natural. I'm getting into a different space because I don't have the same requirements that I thought that I needed before, I guess. I don't have those feelings of things. And it's being comfortable within my own skin and not being something else. I have breast implants, and it's at some point, and I know if the money shows up that I'm gonna get them removed. That's my perspective, because I'm a different person than the person that got those I have confidence, and it's not about my body. It's not about all that stuff. Am I still going to go work out and do those things? Absolutely, because that makes me feel good. That helps give longevity to my life. But like you're talking about with the family and the kids and stuff like that, that's the stuff that's most important to me. It is. And guess what? We're still beautiful. And that it doesn't change it. We're just another phase of beautiful. And then it's like, where can we take that to? I don't know. I use the gua sha on my face. I started doing that because I have a couple of them. So I've been using that. And that's me time. That's taking time for myself. If I'm doing my toenails, that's taking time for myself and not being in a place of frustration if something doesn't go right, but being okay. Like even this morning, I make myself tea. And I don't have a diffuser or a little, the little tea bags that you can put aside. So I have this little net thing that goes into a little teapot that I can steep tea if it's loose leaf tea. Well, this is loose leaf, so I didn't want to use that pot because I already put honey in the other thing, and I already had a tea bag in there. So I was adding this into it. So I set it in there, and it steeped for whatever 10 minutes, and it was great. And then I go to pull it out, and it freaking dumped the stuff all in there, like it was perfectly in the basket. And I dumped it out, and I'm like, I would just laugh because it's like, who cares? Who cares? Because when we get into those heavy moments, then forget and realize, hey, I'm in a heavy moment right now. Feel the emotion if you want to feel the emotion, but recognize that I'm not happy. So what's the opposite of that? Happy. I want to be happy. So I just laughed about it. Like you said, we're laughing about things. Things aren't so serious. It's not about the gifts. And that's where it's about spending the time together. I keep saying spending, and I don't like that word because we're not spending anything. I'm not wasting anything. I'm not spending anything. It's not taking anything from me. It's actually filling me up. So I get those opportunities to go hang out with the kids or with the grandbabies and my daughters, gosh, listen to them, and my clients and my friends and my family. And it's totally different, but it's gone into that space. I had that acupuncture done this past Tuesday, and I'll tell you, it was pretty incredible having it. She had done some cupping and stuff too, and she's licensed in Chinese herbs. So, ancient stuff to kind of help the body, to help facilitate the body. And a couple of things that she recognized was needing to nurture the kidneys and the liver for myself. And it's like, that's a pretty big deal, but that also is honoring the body, and that helps facilitate your hair. I'm not saying that I'm not going to have any of the tinsel hair, some of those nice shiny grays, but it doesn't. And if I do, I do. So it doesn't matter, but it's still honoring the body. It's being in that space and honoring it no matter what. It's moving forward with life and it's recognizing, God, it was the craziest thing that whole evening. I was having pain in my pancreas. I've never had pain in my pancreas. So it was a shifting of energy, the way that my body's been holding on to things. So I'll see her again in 2 weeks. That's just for me right now. This is helping to facilitate this suit that I'm in right now, that I've plugged up with all this energy. I mean, even people get clogged arteries and stuff like that. So it's like, when you think about it as far as a machine, it's honoring that machine. It's honoring this vessel, because this is my church. This is where I get to go to church at right now. It's within inside of this vessel. So it's my perspective on things has totally changed. I get up from the table, and I remember I looked at her and I was like, oh, my voice is so soft. And it was just so funny to me. I had to go sit in the truck because it was just so different. It just felt so good for me. It was just, and the woman, and I set myself up before I went, and I set myself up. I believe Spirit let me know. I'm thinking, well, if I get there and she because I know that she was, I don't know how you would say that, her numbers are a little bit more than mine, maybe by 10, 20 years. And I get there and she's got this beautiful soft brown hair. And I had told myself before I left, man, if she's got natural hair, I know this is the right place to go to. And I get there and I'm looking at her and I said, do you color your hair? Or is that natural? She said, no, it's natural. And I was like, I just got my confirmation, but it's not that I set it up. I feel like Spirit kind of set up for me to have a confirmation when I got there that this is the right path. So it's just finding that path, and it's whatever it looks like for each individual. It's not just one path. I've even had super experiences from Reiki, like super experience, especially if you have, like, when I know you do classes. So if you do a class and you bring someone in that's never had, that to work on, so that everybody gets a practice on this one person. When that happened to me, that all I could barely contain this laughter with inside of myself. And I started laughing on the table and I'm like, I'm sorry. I just like, it's bubbling over. I couldn't control it. It was just so giggly and I couldn't even pinpoint, but I understand now because it was energy. It was that, what's the best way to raise your frequency? It's with laughter. That's like one of the best ways. And that's what was happening.
Nice. And I consider these beautiful silver strands of hair are strands of wisdom, just so you know.
There you go.
Like, look at all the wisdom I have. all these years.
I'm drenched in wisdom.
That's right. I couldn't contain it in my head no more, so it's growing outward. And isn't it interesting, because you and I do this quite frequently, is that the parallels that we have is like, I went to a sound bath, not telling you, right? I didn't tell you until just now in our conversation.
Yeah.
You're going, I mean, you told me you were going to acupuncture, but you didn't tell me when. And actually, I just kind of, be honest with you, kind of spaced it, but this is the first time I've been to a sound bath in probably 4 years. And so, and like you said it too. It's like, you just feel different.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's good.
There's some kind of energy shift going on. And I'm just relishing in the difference of how I feel right now and allowing it to unfold. So yeah, I'm
not trying to grasp onto the old past stuff again because, oh, this is unfamiliar. No, it's like if a baby held on, if a new child learning how to walk, if they held on the whole time and never let go, they would never learn how to run. So it's like we're learning to do that too. We're letting go of the old stuff. It just doesn't feed us. It doesn't feed our souls. And when we go, what are we taking with us? We're taking all these experiences. How did we love and how did we show up for each person? And I know in my past, I haven't always shown up best for each person, but I wasn't showing up best for myself. And I'm not beating myself up for that. And I won't. I'm in a place where when it comes up into my mind, I tell the person, whether here in the physical or not in the physical, I tell them I'm sorry. I'm sorry that's what I knew at that time. And now I'm showing up differently. I'm not like sorry and like, oh, and still showing up the same old way. No, I'm showing up differently. I'm recognizing, honoring relationships, giving time to relationships, spending taking the time for that hug, looking at someone in the eyes. There's just so much to be said about all that stuff, that connection, because the connections are so important. That's like the most valuable. It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And those are my confirmations, right? I was talking to a gal the other day that I swear to God, almost the whole massage, I had goosebumps. I'm like, this is amazing. I love it when that happens like that. But I'm looking for that. But because when I don't have it, I miss it. So I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
And also recognizing there's a few of my friends that have moved. I mean, they're like abroad and I miss them, but also recognizing we're still connected. I miss having the conversations with them. I miss those kind of things, but they're not gone. It's just like people that go into spirit. They're not gone. They're still here. And even though their physical body that we acknowledge as the physical body is abroad, there's no separation. We're still connected. So I just stop and I just think about them and I send them love. And then I can feel this love coming right back to me. It's awesome.
Yeah. And that just can fill up your happiness cup too.
Yes.
Like that, right?
Without doing anything, right? I didn't go buy anything. I didn't have to do anything. I just sat and relaxed. It's just like if you sit and say the name Jesus 3 times, or you say Kuan Yin, or whatever whatever comes into your mind, Sanaya, because I love Sanaya that comes through Suzanne Giesemann. I love that energy.
Yeah.
I listen to so many different channels when it's like there's certain channels that I hear their information, but it's too I don't know, scientific. Not that I have a problem with science at all, but it's something I'm looking for, that feeling, that flow, that loving, nurturing that's all around us to flow to us. So like sitting in that space and just feeling that energy, feel how that feels. It raises your energy. When you think about, I was talking to one of my soul sisters yesterday, and she said, I imagine, my guardian angel giving me a hug. And it's not only that they're giving me a hug, they got these wings that are surrounding you and supporting you and protecting you, and that you're safe and everything's perfect and right. And how she said that she got emotional because she could feel like the tears welling up. And it's not a sadness that those tears are welling up. It's letting you know this is how it feels to be in that space of love, to be in that space of joy. And I don't always use the word love because it can be so weighty for some people. People can't tolerate that. So it's like even happy might be weighty for somebody else. So it's like finding what works for you. Like you said, it's where these words that had, for instance, love had a different definition for me when I was younger. And now it's totally different. Totally different. It's beyond this world, love. It's not the love. It's not something you had to do something for love or anything like that. It's none of those feelings. There's no attachment to it. It's just being in that feeling of it.
Yeah. In mentioning that, I saw something on Facebook the other day about, it said something along the lines like, okay, we're in the 21st century and we're still abusing each other and still at war. It's like, it's things got to change, and I'm thinking about it, it's like generations of how I'm going to say especially women were abused partially in different ways from the male counterpart, but the woman, no matter what, had to stay in the relationship because that's what you did then, right? You took care of the kids and you stayed in that relationship, and no matter what was going on, you didn't talk about it. And it's like we've come all this way and we're in the 21st century and we're still dealing with that. It's like, ladies, gentlemen, people, it's time to move into that space of the joy and the happiness, love, and the compassion for one another, and get into a different energy, change that energy. And all of that is raising the collective feminine energy. Because I've been saying this for a while. It's like we've been in the masculine energy for so long. We're now in a time where we have been raising the collective feminine energy and bringing some harmony, and through those avenues of happiness, genuine happiness, and that happiness coming from within yourself helps shift the energy, the vibrational frequency of collectively of the population and the planet, and just being lighter. It's like, who would want to contribute to that?
On the other side of that, though, like if there's war still going on, that means there's still people that can learn from war,
Right.
From that perspective. And it may not be at our front door, but it's, it's outside of of us. And it's also recognizing that feminine's coming forward to embrace the masculine, because by embracing it, that's just like saying our dark side, right? It's not we're the light for that dark within inside of ourselves. If we've got like an attachment on us, it's not an attachment really. It's the other side of us that we've been kind of trying to push aside and not look at and shaming it, or, it's got to change. And it's like, we just needed to embrace it. So just a different perspective on it. Cause I had heard something from someone before, and I realized if it's not in our experience, in our direct experience, we've learned from it.
Yeah.
We don't have to continue being in that space. And I feel like there's a lot of people that need to learn from that, because there's a lot of people out there that still believe in conquering things, that you've got to conquer things, and that it's got to be a war and it's got to be that way. But on the other side of that, I don't personally feel like it has to be that way. And you don't either, I don't think, because just like you said, things can change, but the change comes from within. And it's us not having that war with anything within inside of ourselves, even with the idea of war. It's that we're on this great journey, and everything that we do for ourselves, and every growth, and every time I focus on the happiness, we're raising the collective, we're raising the environment, we're changing everything without doing anything. We're so subtle. I think that's why a lot of people, I would say, that we're in the dark, would be afraid of people that are in the light, because the light, it's so subtle. We don't have to do anything, and it conquers. It doesn't, it embraces, it fills everything up with love. It sends streams of grace to all.
Well,
If
yeah,
that makes sense.
and you think about it, as being in the light is peace. And what is peace? Stillness. And what is stillness? Being with yourself. And what's being with yourself? Loving yourself, embracing yourself, honoring yourself,
All of you.
right?
Yeah.
All of me. And that's the vibration that I want to contribute to the external. Now, when you're thinking about war, it's a representation of the war within. And that war within is because you don't like yourself, you can't be with yourself, you're not being in your own authentic self, you don't love yourself, you don't like yourself, everything's external, your beliefs are based on other people's words and control and power, and so that energy frequency contributes to the space of war. And it's like you said, there's still people that need to learn from that. Like this lady, I could have been a mess. With the whole negativity story that she had nothing good to say. That could have balled me up. I could have been a mess. I could have cried afterwards. It could have just been a disaster, which it would have been years ago because of the way I was. But I wasn't allowing her darkness to dim my light. I was standing in my light. I was standing and sharing that and bringing it to this space and keeping my vibration up and maintaining my energy. And it was like and that's why I said earlier, right? The universe was testing me. Is I did really, really good, and I was so proud of myself. And it was just, you have those opportunities to have those check-ins, and it's to know that you ain't taking me down today. You ain't doing it. I'm not allowing you to do this, right? My hubby's leaving. And so it will be people ready and willing to know that something has to change when it comes to those areas of war. And really, it starts within. There's a reason why you're giving into it. There's a reason why you're okay with it. And there's a reason why you don't like it. And the reason why you don't want to be around it. And so just, taking that internal inventory of where am I with myself? Because your external is going to definitely mirror that back to you.
100%.
Yeah.
It
So,
reflects back everything back to you.
oh man.
And you were the light. So if you think about just the conversation we were having, you were the light in that you were the light for that darkness, and she needed that way. So whatever she took from it, that's awesome, because all you had to do is smile and be the light. That's it. That's easy.
And most of the time I ignored what she was even saying. She'd say something, I wouldn't even, I was just internally, I was laughing. I was just like, we're just going to get through this, Amy. We're going to be okay. We're just going to get through this. But yeah, at least half of what she said, I didn't even respond to. Not mental, like a mental, like, would you shut the F up? None of that. I was just doing my thing. I was just in with the fingerprinting. I was just where I was.
And it was an example of, this is how it looks like when we're in that space, and how things can feel so heavy, and how things repeat, and how she's been in that same space. And she's even talking about the previous stuff, and how we're creating all the time with our words. Yeah. So it's like really being aware of how we're creating at all moments. Yeah. It's at all moments. When you decide to go ahead and recycle that information, you can either stay on that merry-go-round, or you can just step right off and then walk away from it and be in your peace, because it's a choice. It's our personal choice. And then I honestly do feel, once we become neutral on any situation, whether it's war, whether it's relationships, love, hate, person, whatever, once we become neutral, there's nothing more for us to learn from that, and it falls out of our experience. It's no longer needed. So it's good to, that's just another gauge to let you know where you're at too. I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Good conversation, sister. I love it. I love it.
I do too.
I'm going to repeat myself. I love it.
Love, love, love it.
Got any final words for our peeps?
Be aware of what you're speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, even for myself, because it's easy to talk about the problems that we've experienced in the past to bring into someone's awareness so they have an idea that you've been through something they've been through. And it's like, we don't have to, I'm recognizing we don't have to do that. It's not necessary, because then that's nothing different than dipping down into someone's energy. So it's basically holding the light. Be the light.
Yeah. Be the light for yourself.
Yes.
Don't even focus on
beacon.
I could be the light for this person who is very negative, because I have that light within me for myself.
Yeah.
So that yourself takes precedence. And when you do it for yourself, it's just easier to do it for other people. So it's been years of practice for that for myself. And because I've been practicing it for so long, now it's just so much easier to do it for others. So breathe the light for yourself, practice it, and you'll notice it's not even a practice with other people. You just automatically do it. So, all right, my friends, another wonderful episode that I'm just saying, I feel is a wonderful episode. And we hope that you get something out of it that you can implement. Just take one thing, one word, one comment, and just implement for yourself to do and be better with yourself and for yourself, so that you can show up and be and do better in this world, helping with the collective energy, changing the vibrational frequency, more towards that happiness and joyful state, helping to raise that collective feminine energy and be more loving. It's just so fun and freeing and light. So with that, thank you so much for your time, energy, and focus. We know you could be doing anything else with your time. And so we appreciate you. We also appreciate you when you share these videos with other people that you know could benefit from them. So with that, thank you for hanging out with us, Amy, with Tea Time with Amy and Bev. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.